Hello and welcome to the It's Your Effin' Journey podcast. My name is Melissa Hemming, and if a life coach and a therapist had a baby, you would get me. I am so excited to have you here today and to talk about some things that hopefully will help you in your journey of mindset and mental health. That's always the purpose here, and to help you figure out what is the right next move for you, because everyone's different. And my hope here is to help you drown out the voices of the people around you and society and the patriarchy to determine your best next course of action, because no one else is living your life except for you. So that's what we celebrate here. Having your effing journey, even if no one else understands what the fuck you're doing or why. If I listened to the people around me about how I live my life, I wouldn't do half the shit that I do, half the shit that makes me proud, half the shit that lights me up, half the shit that keeps me going. And that would be a tragedy, right? It would be a tragedy because I wouldn't be here in your ear. So always go after what you feel is right, even if you're misunderstood. Okay, so let's talk about some things like the Positive Pickle Club. So exciting. We're going to have our first group coaching session next week, because I can't believe this is February and that means I'm going to fucking Tokyo in a couple weeks. I cannot believe that this happened. It seemed like Tokyo was so far away when this was planned and when we booked it and when we committed to fundraising and when we started training. And here we are, week 15 of training. When you're listening to this, this is going to be my highest mileage week. I have my final 20 miler and then it's taper time, which means if you are a runner, you know that taper time means you're fucking crazy, starving, little miles to run. You feel like you've lost your way. You feel like you're injured all the time. You just sort of go out of your mind because you're used to logging so many miles in that week. And when taper's there, you're reducing. So you go from just to give you an example. So this week is 15. I will have run 35 miles this week. And then it drops down significantly for the next 3 weeks. But you're still just as hungry. You're still just as wired for the race. And it's part of the process. So holy shit, it's coming. I'm going with my friend Alexis, who is also fundraising for MS UK. And ew, I don't know what my dog just got on my blanket, but that is gross. We have just started planning some of our excursions and fun things. We're going to go see snow monkeys in the hot springs, and we're going to Disney Tokyo, and we're doing a sumo wrestling dinner with watching the show and eating dumplings or something delicious. I don't know. We're doing so many fun things. I'm so excited. It's going to be an adventure for sure. So, Positive Pickle Club is open, of course, $19 a month, and you get the group coaching call of the month. It's choosing you. It's choosing yourself. It's choosing your self-care. It's choosing having a mindful look on your mental health and having a place of accountability and support to do that. So the link is in the show notes for that. And I'd be so happy to see you in the Positive Pickle Club, because it's not toxic positivity. It's choosing you in a world that it'd be really easy not to choose yourself. And I know a lot of people are on that journey of when can I pay attention to me? When is time for me? This is time for you. This is intentional time for you, where you can determine when, how, if, and figure out your fucking journey in all of that too, because it's not for me to tell you. It's for you to determine what feels good. And that's what I like to help my clients do. This is not a one size fits all. It's me throwing out tips and tricks and suggestions and ways to take care of yourself without someone else telling you, because I know there's so much noise. This is what works. This is what helps you. This is what you need from point A to point Z. And I recognize through my own journey of my own that there is no right or wrong way to get to point A to point Z. And it's so individual and unique that it would be really ignorant for me to ever tell you what's going to help you. I want to be the person who can help you figure out what's right for you. And that's what that's all about. So let's do it. What time is it? Podcast time. It's a celebration. What time is it? Podcast time. Okay, so 2 topics today that I want to talk about is, the first is diagnosing yourself. So this has been a sort of a theme of therapy this week, as well as like dealing with your emotions from the weight of the world right now, which is just wild and it's so fucking hard. So if you are in it with me, it's hard. Life is hard without the government lying to us. It's so much harder now. So that's definitely been a theme, and I don't have the answers. I was talking in my stories the other day that like, I feel like I'm operating at a subpar level in most things in my life right now, except for running. I always nail my fucking runs. I think because it helps me mentally, but I feel like I am on the struggle bus as a mom. I feel like I'm on the struggle bus as a therapist. And I think a lot of that has to do with like, at least life before all of this government shit. And I'm not trying to ignore the fact that America always had its struggles. I just wasn't privy, because of my skin color, because of my privilege, to understand how deep rooted this all was until now. And so in a lot of ways, my eyes are much more open now to what trials and tribulations minority people and people of color have experienced in our country for years and years and years. I just think for me, when I was in my little bubble, and I'm going to call it that, when I was in my bubble before all of this government stuff, like let's go back before 2016, Trump's first term, it was really straightforward to me, right? Like I knew how to help people. I knew. And I think that this is interesting too, because I think in a lot of ways I was ignorant, right? Like I just said to you guys, it'd be really ignorant for me to tell you this is how to take care of yourself. And in a lot of ways, previous Melissa was ignorant. It was like, well, this is so fucking obvious. Move your body, pay attention to what you're consuming. Content on social media, music even, podcasts, personal development reading. Make sure you're going to therapy, that you're, doing your gratitude. Like there are certain things that I'm like, absolutely, this helps your mental health. But, and I do feel like I had a blueprint. I used to have a fucking webinar that was called Becoming the Healthiest and Happiest Version of Yourself. And that to me at the time, and this wasn't 10 years ago, because I signed up to be a Beachbody coach 10 years ago. So this is more like 2018 to 2022, let's say. A lot of that was taking care of yourself and becoming a fucking coach, because I really believed in the core of my being that being a coach, and not even just being a coach, but being on social media, holds you accountable in ways that you would be surprised. And I think that was my vision, and that was what I really believed. And I don't even know where I was going with this, but yeah, so, I mean, okay, we're going to go because I'm getting off track, but let's talk about, diagnosing yourself. I do want to finish that thought. I'm sorry guys, I'm all over the place today. So not knowing the blueprint anymore. That's where I feel really lost as a therapist, because I do not have this belief anymore. And this is just really me escaping my ignorance and getting out of that bubble. I don't know what's going to help you. I do not know. I know for me what helps me right now. And it's not perfect, because as I told you, I'm still on the fucking struggle bus in my mental health. A lot of it feels super overwhelming and super all consuming, but, and I know what I have to do to sort of correct some of this. And one of those things is waking up in the morning and not jumping on social media because it's so fucking depressing. But there is a mix of action. And, you know, I was talking to a friend yesterday about going to protests, and she was like, well, maybe you need like a shift. And maybe that doesn't sort of fill your bucket. And I explained to her, like, it really, really does. Because being around people who, because I do talk to people about how infuriating this is and about the world right now. But a lot of those people don't come to protests with me. And it leaves me feeling like alone in these feelings and alone in this journey. So going to the protests really like helps me understand that there are people who care enough and who are mad enough and who don't give a fuck enough to go and get in the streets with other people and stand up for what they believe in. And I'm not saying, I saw a video yesterday. It was a mom who was saying that she really wants to be brave enough to go to protests, but she's really scared. I think that the thing that holds people back from protesting is the fear. And I totally get it. People were scared before Minnesota. And now that Minnesota is happening and you're seeing all this violence and potential death, I get how people are like, I can't do that. I don't have that thought. I feel like this is what I have to do. And, you know, right or wrong, should something happen to me, you know, should I get arrested? I've never been arrested before. So I have my accelerated rehabilitation. I have my ex who's a lawyer. Should I lose my life? You know, I feel like there could be worse things to lose your life for than going to a protest and speaking up against fascism. I don't want to die. I'm not ready to die. I have a lot of life left to live, but that is where I feel I need to be. So I'm going to do that. So I think there's a lot of fear around going. And I think that for me, the community, the support, that feeling that I get from being there and showing up for others, that outweighs any fear that I have of what could potentially go wrong. I shared in my Instagram stories yesterday that the last protest I went to was the first one that we sort of went over like protocol if you see ICE. And that was a little bit rattling to me, just like, okay, this is what we do. This is how we respond. It still blows my mind that someone could think that I am dangerous, or like a professional agitator always like makes me giggle because I don't know. I feel like if you know me, you know my heart. And obviously these ICE agents don't want to know our hearts. They think that we're, you know, the worst of the worst. And I think that's the crazy part too, is like knowing that there's big groups of people, including our president, who hates us. That is so hard to wrap my mind around. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart for my kids that are growing up in this environment and this society. It breaks my heart that there are children in fear. It breaks my heart that there are women giving birth. Did someone take a shit? It smells like shit somewhere. God, dogs are so gross. What, in this one episode alone, there's like shit on my blanket and there might be shit on the ground. I don't know. But it breaks my heart that there's women giving birth in their houses by themselves because they're terrified to go to the hospital because ICE agents are storming the hospitals. This is not a country that I am proud to live in, and I am going to shout my fucking mouth off until something changes. Or until they fucking shut me up, right? Okay, let's talk about what we wanted to talk about today. So I think that's where I struggle as a therapist, because I know how to help people take a hold of their mental health. Not everyone, not because I can't effectively work with everyone. It would be, again, ignorant to think that I can, or think that everyone would connect to me. Some people are not going to like me. I'm not going to be for everyone, and that's okay. But I feel like as a therapist, I do have a really good handle on how to help people. And in this political environment, I feel really helpless because I don't know myself, because I too am struggling. And I think, there's something human about that. There's like a human experience of like this like collective like shrugging of shoulders. But it's also, as a professional, I think frustrating to be like, I don't know the answers either because I've never lived in this before. And it's sort of like going to your doctor. If you were like, going to your doctor and being like, I don't feel well, and your doctor doesn't know how the fuck to fix you, you're like, what the fuck do I do? Like, you're supposed to know. And I feel like, although, and I guess it's a great lesson for me in this year, I sort of set the tone of this year not having the answers and allowing people to be able to manage their emotions and to be able to figure out what works for them, and not performing in this space of knowing. And so this is a great lesson from the universe in me practicing this, because and I guess it works in the same way as therapy ever did, right? Here are these tools that I know have worked for my clients or me. And in this political environment, in this country right now, you may be feeling all these types of ways, and here is how maybe you can help yourself in the moment, and ongoing. So these are the conversations that I've been having, and it's hard. It's really hard. I shared in my stories that one of the hardest parts of my job right now is when we inevitably, clients will talk about whatever's going on in their lives personally, and then it inevitably gets to what's happening in the world, and this inability to escape from it, and this overwhelming sense of fear and dread and terror and unknowing and anxiety and stress. And that's really fucking hard. But what's also really hard is relationships when you are not aligned in the same way with people. And I haven't really shared about this before, but maybe I will. Maybe we'll just make this an episode about this because I know a lot of people are struggling with their relationships with people that are on the other side. And you see, people's posts, and they say, if you, don't agree with me, or if you are not on the side of human rights, or if you still support ICE, or you still support this administration, delete me as a friend. I fully understand that. I get it. And I'm going to talk about 3 different relationships that are in my life. And one of them, I don't even know if I've ever said this publicly, and it makes me honestly sick to my stomach to say it, but my parents, I actually don't know. And I think this is the part that I struggle with the most. So obviously there's a lot of my journey that I've shared with you guys about acceptance and belonging, and, the sort of way that I've learned attachment through my adoption and my relationship with my biological family and my adoptive family. And the way that I grew up is you don't talk about politics. We don't talk about politics. Growing up, I knew that my dad was more conservative, as most white men who have money or he worked his way to where he is. Both of my adoptive parents came from, pretty, I don't want to say poor, but like a lower middle class type environment. And my dad worked his ass off working in insurance companies, and did really well for himself. He saved money, he invested money, and did really well for himself. And so I knew he was more conservative, and I knew my mom was a Democrat. And obviously at some point this shifted, and I think if you grew up the way that I did, or even in the time period that I did, it wasn't abnormal for people to not talk about politics. Like, that was something that we just didn't do. And I actually was more conservative when I was younger. I was a big fan of Bush, who I actually am a huge fan of now. Like, I love the fucking edits of him. I would love to have Bush as our president again, because that, like, anything that seemed bad then is nothing compared to what Trump is. But anyways, but at some point I shifted in my, because that was like what I was like, I would say I was a Republican when September 11th happened. And I was like all about America, America United we stand, fuck the people that got us to that place, who attacked us, all of that. And then I don't really know when I started. I probably started shifting when I worked in the nonprofits. That's probably when I became more and more liberal and more understanding of, just life around me and my privilege and all of that. And moving through the years, I never spoke to my parents about politics. Now, fast forward to Trump. I don't even know exactly what I do know, but I do know that my parents voted for him in 2016, and I believe that they both voted for him in this past election. We've had very limited conversations about it, and it really has created a rift in our relationship. It breaks my heart. I always was really close to my parents. They've always been there for me in so many ways and for my kids. What I struggle with the most is their inability to talk about it with me. And because they don't talk about it with me, I have no other way to think about it than they are accepting everything that is happening. So there's been a couple times that I've brought it up in the last year since he took office again. I mentioned it when ICE originally started coming around. My youngest daughter, my kids go to a magnet school. They are the minority in their school. So to think that they would not be impacted by ICE, their friends impacted, it's really ignorant. But I brought it up to my mom around, about a year ago, and she did agree with it. And sort of always, like, whenever I brought it up was like, you're hysterical type thing. Even when I tried to be calm, there were sometimes I wasn't calm, but even when I tried to be calm, and my dad has not talked to me about it once. I texted him, I think a year ago too, and I just explained that, he was asking me how I was doing, and he meant it in a way about my separation, because my separation was very new at that point last year. And I responded that everything's fine with my separation, but that I'm sick about what's happening in our country, and I'm having a really hard time with my relationship with my mom as a result. And he never responded to me. So we've gone on this last year, no talk about politics. And it's infuriating to me because, again, I don't know where they stand. So I don't know. This is so heavy for me because, to me, even though we live in a fucking blue state, our votes don't count, right? In Connecticut, we've always said that, like, we know our votes don't count. So did my parents actually hold Trump's hand and put him in office? No, obviously no. But I think it's because I love them so much and I'm so disappointed by them that it infuriates me. And it's as if, like, whenever I sort of talk about it in my mind, it's like they did this. And because I don't know where their line is, like, I assume my dad's is around finances and protecting his assets and protecting his money, but I don't know because they don't talk about it. So it's so fucking infuriating to me to have this, like, I think is a fake relationship where we can't even talk about our beliefs or where we stand. Like, is every political discussion an argument? It doesn't necessarily have to be. I'm going to talk about my other friend. My other friend is a lifelong friend of mine, and I do know where he stands with our president and administration and ICE and all of that, and he is 100% in support. This also makes me sick to my stomach because I adore him, but I don't see it with him the same way as I see it with my parents. And I think it's because my parents raised me. So part of me is like, how did I come from this house? How was I raised in the house with people who can even conceptually agree with people being harmed the way that ICE is harming people? I don't get it. Wasn't raised by my friend. And my friend and I have a really good friendship, and there's so many good parts about our friendship. I just have to compartmentalize what he believes from our friendship. And I'm able to do that as long as we don't speak about politics. We have talked about some of these issues, and I don't think it's been necessarily helpful or harmful. But it helps to have the conversations, so at least I know where he stands. I wish my parents could speak about these things so that I could have a better understanding of who they are, what they believe in, and mentally sort of process all of that. So it's very hard. And if anyone out there is struggling in relationships, I get it. And these three people are all that I have the capacity for. So if you enter my life now and you're like, I like Trump, you're not coming in my life. If you are someone that I barely know and you like Trump, I'm deleting you as a friend or a follower. I have no time for any other mental gymnastics about how to have these relationships right now, because these three take up all the space that I have for my own understanding and my own sanity. I know that like it literally, and I think also it makes me even more mad at Trump because he's done this, he's done this to separate people. And, my parents are in their late 70s. They're not always going to be here. I'm very well aware that my parents could exit this earth at any time. And I will have had such a limited relationship with them when they do, because I have such a hard time being around them now and talking to them now because I just don't know where they stand. And it really hurts my heart. I mean, I credit Trump for dissolving my marriage as well, because I just could not be with anyone who couldn't stand with me on those front lines. If you're not, I mean, and he voted, I don't even know who he voted for. I believe he did not vote for Trump. But if I don't definitively know where you stand, if I don't definitively know that you are voting for my body and supporting me and my daughters, where do we go from there? And I won't even get into my biological family. That's a fucking shit show as well. Like I've unfollowed my biological mom on Facebook, but my oldest daughter, she keeps all these people on her social media, and so she just screenshots what they do and say to me, and it makes me so sad. Like, how the fuck did I come from two Trump families? How did that happen? I mean, like, for someone who struggles with her identity and attachment and like belonging, and I mean, I'm working through all of this in therapy, of course, but like, it just makes me feel alone, and I'm okay with it. Like, I'm okay with charting my own course and figuring out my own shit and being this person on her own little island. I feel like, and I keep hearing Taylor Swift, you're on your own, kid. I'm on my own, kid. I've been on my own, kid, and I know it's going to be okay. Everything you lose is a step you take. I just never wanted to lose my parents, and I feel like in a lot of ways that I have. And it's not just about politics either. It's about who I am as a runner. I've talked about that before on here. I don't feel particularly understood or supported by them as a runner. It feels like in a lot of ways, the things that are meaningful to me, that I care about, that I hold near and dear to my heart, how I live, how I love, how I show up, is not something that's celebrated by them. And I'm learning for it to be okay. And you guys are helping me do that through this podcast and through this work that I do and through this self-exploration. I am going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And I hope our country's going to be okay. But I do think it's important to have conversations that are meaningful and thoughtful about where we stand with human rights. And I tried to have a nice one the other day. I have been totally unhinged on Facebook, and it's I don't know. I used to be so good about going on Facebook and like reading something that I didn't agree with and then asking myself, like, this is part of ADHD stuff. Like, I'm so impulsive. So I've gotten good at like checking myself and saying, is this, something that I have to respond to? Is it worth it? Is it helpful? And all of that has gone out the window in the last couple of weeks. I see something, I say something, and part of me likes it and part of me doesn't. I do think that I am gaining a lot more of this, like, fuck you attitude, or, this is not for me attitude, or standing up for myself. And for that, I'm proud. But I don't always need to give people I don't always need to bite. I don't always need to bite, and I don't always need to be argumentative or in your face. And I don't think that I like that way of how I'm showing up. So I definitely want to shift that too. But I do think some of this stuff is so important, and it's so important to share how we feel, and it's so important to share our side of our point of view, because there's been so many things that I've seen and talked about and learned about that I'm like, oh shit, that makes sense. And especially when it comes to being white, one of the things the other day is I picked a fight with someone that's on my side, who's on my side of everything. But she had posted something about, it was like, oh my God, I just had the most heartbreaking conversation with my daughter who's in college, and I told her that if she sees ICE on her college campus, to put her head down, be quiet, walk away, get out of that situation. And I was like, what in the white privilege is this? What in the fucking world? And I have a college-age daughter, so don't tell me about parenting. I will support whatever my daughter feels like she needs to do. But will I ever tell her to do that? Absolutely not. Protect yourself. Do what's on your heart. Do what feels right. Know that this is fucked, and I'll have your back no matter what. That's my parenting message. It's not put your fucking white head down and run the fuck away. I'm going to stand up. If I see ICE, I have a whistle. I've had a whistle in my jacket pocket for months. I am fucking ready for this shit because I'm pissed. And you are not going to just come into my neighborhood, into my city, into my home. I love Connecticut. I was just ranting and raving on the 169 page about people. I guess the average person that lives in Connecticut has only seen 6 towns in Connecticut, or 6 cities. I can't remember what it was. And I commented, I'm like, and most people in Connecticut are so fucking annoying. And they're like, oh, this is the most boring place ever. To which I always respond, have you explored it? Because if you have not explored it, sure, it's boring. But usually when people say that to me, those are the people that sit in their house a lot. So if you're sitting in your house, you're going to be fucking bored. Go out and explore. I've run in every single town in Connecticut, and there is so much to do. I don't even know why I'm off on this tangent now, but this is me. I am like a mad woman. I am a mad woman. And, part of me doesn't like it. I'm like, I feel like in some ways the world is hardening me, but in some ways it's like making me even more strong, and really just being like, this is what I believe, and I'm just going to say it, because there's been a reason that I haven't been saying it. And I think a lot of that has to do with the patriarchy and women needing to smile and be nice and get along and do the nice things and keep people happy. And I'm sick of that. I'm sick of that. So, wow, this podcast took a turn. I am going to talk about the diagnosing yourself in the next episode or another episode in the future, because I do think it's important to talk about. But hopefully this helped somebody today. I know this is, I guess I have to be grateful that this is what came out of my mouth today, because was on my heart, and hopefully it helps somebody else out there who is struggling in these relationships too. I don't think there's a right way. I don't think it's cut and dry. I know some people would be like, how are you friends with someone who actively supports ICE? And sometimes I ask myself that too, but then I really check into where I am with the friendship. And there's a lot to the friendship that I'm super grateful for that is really supportive of where I am in my life right now. It just doesn't fit the other way. Will it always fit? I don't know. I don't know what the future holds with it. I don't know how long I can go down that road in knowing that. But I also choose to believe that the people who support this and support ICE and support MAGA, I think that they're sad on the inside, and you can't convince me otherwise. And that's like sort of the really human part of it all, is I really just do think, like, and I know that sounds silly, but I believe in my heart people bully for a reason, and it's because they don't feel good about themselves. And I do think that that's where this comes from. It comes from not feeling good about yourself. So and why can I put my friend in that and not my parents? I don't know. I think it's because as I said, I hold my parents to a higher standard than my friend. And I think both sets of people would really benefit from getting out in the world and exploring the communities and getting to know people on a level. Working, as I said, in a nonprofit changed my whole identity in how I looked at the world and how I saw the things around me. And that came from leaving my own little bubble of comfort. So, and when you look at MAGA, you look at the lack of education, you look at how a lot of people live without traveling, without exploring other cultures, it makes sense. It makes sense. So, and Trump just came in and sort of took advantage of all of that. And it makes me fucking mad. But if you're with me, I'm with you. We got each other. And I can help in the Positive Pickle Club, at least to help you manage your emotions through this all, because we're doing it together, live and in the trenches. So I love you guys. Thank you for being here. Screenshot and share this recording if it spoke to you, and I'll see you soon. Mwah.